Hi, and welcome to Manti's Book Club. Today we continue reading through Profession Witch. If you are watching this on Twitch, you can find previous episodes on my YouTube, acidmanticore. The VOD of this episode will be uploaded to my YouTube channel tomorrow or day after or somewhere within this week. If this is the first stream that you see, you can safely pause it and go listen to the beginning of the book, or you can continue listening to this one. We are starting today with lecture 3, Intelligent Traces. I pushed the heavy spring door open and a small, smoky bell tinkled dully above my head. The smell of smoke and slop was in my face, but there is none to be picky. The Zealous Bull Tavern is the only place in Starmin that serves the tomato juice I adore. In addition, something is constantly happening here, either a fight on chairs, or a mad dog will run in, or someone's corpse will be found. Well, he was laying in his salad as if he was alive. The waitress even brought him the bill. And immediately screeching, chaos, turmoil. Well, zealously, in a word. So, the door slammed behind my back, attracting everyone's attention. According to visitors, I was nothing special. A girl with reddish hair, wearing a shabby leather jacket and tight pants tucked into boots, without any weapons or jewelry. The expectantly quieted inn was again filled with the even hum of voices, the clatter of mugs, savory slurping and squelching. The innkeeper nodded, barely noticeably, greeting his regular customer. I walked up to the counter and sat down on a high stool, half turning towards the audience. A long-haired phantom of an indeterminate race, equipped with all the required curves, danced on a wooden platform, gradually revealing itself. Our adepts created similar phantoms for a glass of beer. Judging by the size of the roundness, especially the upper front ones, this masterpiece came from the hands of Vajek, another one of my classmates. The day was just beginning and there were just a few people in the tavern. 2 drunken dwarfs, an elf whose face was not visible under a wide hood, 5 or 6 humans, with them 3 free-spirited girls, and several Leshaks quietly discussing the details of a trade deal at a separate table. Before I had time to think with disappointment that it is an outrageously quiet day, the door slammed loudly against the frame and trolls poured into the tavern in a noisy crowd, stomping their dirty boots and speaking indecently about taverns in general and the Zealous Bull in particular. One pulled a chair right out from under the nodding dwarf. The other pinned a freckled waitress in a corner with a dangerously swaying stack of dirty bowls in her hands. However, she did not protest and only giggled. I got on guard. It's like there wasn't enough here. They were insolent, terrible sneers and womanizers. These were troll mercenaries. In general, this race has many subspecies, and even within a subspecies, one clan can never be confused with another. There are snow trolls, mountain trolls, stone trolls, underground trolls, and cave trolls. Among them, there are even dwarfs, giants, and cannibals. The clans are constantly at odds with each other, each considers itself the crown of evolution. Mercenaries in general are not purebred trolls. They are parasiting on human civilization because they do not have their own women, and their offspring are carried out for money by prostitutes like the one who is already giggling in the corner. Meanwhile, one of the trolls purposefully walked towards me, throwing away the chairs that blocked the way and deftly jumping over the set tables. The most timid visitors grabbed bowls and mugs and, just in case, moved closer to the door and opened windows. The bravest and the smartest hurried to pay, knowing full well that after the fight they would have no time for it, and by tomorrow morning double interest would accrue on a debt. Just in case, I got up and grabbed the mug of juice more comfortably, so that if something happened I could weight it down with a spell. But that wasn't necessary. It's one thing to run into an unfamiliar troll. Trolls, by the way, don't recognize women as intelligent beings. And quite another to be scolded by a troll friend. They call it a friendly conversation, and the more delicious the curse, the greater the respect. Uh, Hello, chick, what a woman you have! Khyrogymermaran, the troll blurted out joyfully, loudly slapping me on the butt. By troll standards, this was considered a sophisticated compliment, although the exact translation of such a statement into human language could confuse even an experienced loader. The trolls absolutely lacked common curse words, as well as the patience to put them into three-story phrases, when they could limit themselves to the weighty and comprehensive khyr. Hello, Val. I rubbed what I got slapped, but didn't play hard to get and responded with a resounding peck on a troll's cheek. A long time no see. The troll turned around in his chair, looking out for the innkeeper. Hey, you Vagurtskher! The innkeeper realized that he wasn't addressing him, but approached with caution. A mug of pear ale and 2 pickled peppers. Get moving, lover. Money up front, the innkeep warned gratingly, but adamantly. Here, chocolate bloodsucker. A small silver coin rolled along the counter and jingled. A wooden plate with 2 hot peppers stuffed with garlic, horseradish, and currants slid in the opposite direction. I would order them with them not a pear beer, but a fire barrel with water. Valisi, to this friend's just Val, was a head taller than me, broad-shouldered, slightly stooped, somewhat reminiscent of a wardrobe with open doors. A shock of long, wire-like, dark, sandy wavy hair goes into a short mane on the back, and the overall hairiness is noticeably increased. He has grown a beard on his paws. The troll's eyes are deep-set, uncomfortably light and serpentinely expressionless. Eyebrows sullenly knitted, a long hooked nose, lips in a narrow pale line. A shabby leather jacket, black trousers torn at the knees, a pair of knives in his belt, and the hilt of a 2-handed sword hanging above his shoulder. Last winter, Val, blooded and frozen, was picked up on the outskirts of the school. He, curled up into a ball and dusted with snow, was hanging out under the wall of the barn. He never confessed who caressed him and why. He was doubly unlucky because at the Faculty of Herbalists and Healers the test session was just beginning. Features of troll physiology were in the questions, and there was almost no practice. The adepts pounced on Val like crows on a carrion, and he survived rather in spite of their efforts. For 2 days he was laying there, not reacting to anything, and on the 9th night the adepts jointly threw him out of the women's wing. Our relationship with Val was like friendship of a cat and a dog. The dog barked, the cat hissed, to mutual pleasure. At first, I, like all women, he basically did not call them by name, not allowing the blasphemous thought about the existence of female intelligence received from the troll only strong epithets like Vraka and Hviba. Then, in order to somehow distinguish me from the crowd and soften my righteous anger, Val began to add diminutive endings to them, chechka, chenka, etc. But this option did not suit me either. Having gone through countless words that are inappropriate in public places, we settled on a neutral chick. You came with a bottle and ordering juice. Val chuckled, noticing the braided neck peeking out of the bag hanging on my shoulder. Yeah, the bottle. The damned bottle of the strongest herbal tincture which somehow needs to be carried through the gate. It's expensive, by the way. I gave away my last money and even even though I had a discount. Oh, the witch, Weil licked his lips admiringly. Is it real? Is it real? Authentic? What do you think? Look, the seal on the neck is intact. I pulled out the bottle and placed it on the counter closer to the troll. With your sorcerers you can't be sure of anything, Val drawled, swallowing saliva. You'll even turn an old woman into a maiden. I shrugged my shoulders and nodded indifferently at the bottle. Well, you can check it out. You must have poured some nasty stuff in, Val grumbled incredulously, but the bottle was already clamped between his knees, and he, puffing, was trying to loosen and pull out the cap. Tight lumps of muscle moved under the dark skin. It is not good for a wine connoisseur to knock out the cork of such a precious drink with a dashing blow to the bottom. Finally, the cork gave way. A light smoke emerged from the neck of the bottle. Val inhaled it with his wide nostrils and closed his eyes with pleasure. Try it, I suggested with a regal gesture, thinking to myself, I'll add some water. The troll sighed in disappointment and pushed the plug into place. What is one sip to him? It's just a tease. But Val does not have a lot of money today. Otherwise, he wouldn't order low-grade moonshine. The poisoning... What? The poisoning himself with which after Varajeka is blasphemy. I took a sip of the juice, savored it, and an idea struck me. Stupid, of course. You know, drink it all, I allowed. In surprise, Val almost dropped the bottle. Seriously? Drink, for my health. Did you put poison in there? Val asked suspiciously, looking at the bottle in the light. Well, if you don't want to, then don't. I turned to face the audience and waved my hand invitingly. Hey guys, who should I treat with the witch? The regulars rushed to the counter but ran into bristling Val. The mercenary's left hand tenaciously grabbed the bottle by the neck and a short throwing knife flashed in his right hand. Fuck off, Labares, the chick joked. Freebie lovers were blown away by the wind. The precious drink gurgled and gurgled, pouring into the troll. Seizing the moment, I grabbed the empty bottle from Val, who, according to the tradition, was about to smash it on the counter, and whistled softly, attracting the innkeeper's attention. Hey dear, wash the bottle and pour something non-alcoholic into it. Tomato juice, or would you like cherry? No, I need transparent and the cheapest one. The innkeeper chuckled suspiciously and winked at Val, but took the bottle and carried it away. I don't understand you, Val sniffed the pear beer, grimaced, and mercifully let the mug down the counter. The tattered, hangover-shaken dwarf grabbed it with both hands. It's like throwing the money down the toilet. What do you have? Tomato juice? Yeah, got addicted in the gala? I choked. How do you know that? What? You think I haven't seen vampires or what? And what they find in this rubbish, it is sour, cloying, and even salty. Grease, in a word. It's only good to scare guests. Have you been to the Geva? For what? For business, Val answered vaguely, stuffing both peppers into his mouth at the same time. The constant motto of troll mercenaries: it's necessary, that's all. It is necessary they will intimidate the presumptuous debtor or competitor. It is necessary they will cut down the house, dig a ditch, build a dam. If necessary, they will organize a fatal accident. In general, they take on everything, just pay the money. I looked at Val with undisguised tenderness, he were a as if he were a wide window frame through which the Geva was visible. Troll definitely didn't deserve my affectionate glance. After chewing the peppers, he neighed like a stallion. Are you really pining for their lord? He screamed in delight, looking around at his friends playing cards at the table. Did you hear that, guys? Our cheek is not full. The cackle of the trolls was joined by the falsettos of the Leshaks and the cheerful grunting of a drunken dwarf. Żmurach wojemnier, one of the trolls barked, raising his mug. Nagir? Shet Marella, yok back up. I flashed my eyes angrily, and the sparkle in my mug and the alcohol in my mug flared up. You are laughing at the wrong one. But the mercenary covered the mug with his white palm, the fire choked with smoke and went out. After which the bastard troll loudly repeated in public that a crane for one night is definitely better than a titmouse for life. The clownish congratulations rained down from all sides, and mugs began to rattle. Dealing with trolls costs you more. Under no circumstances should you show that their ridicule hurt you. If you flare up or get angry, the trolls will not stop. They will be known, they will talk about you throughout the entire storming. Well, you're a fool, Val, and your jokes are stupid, I said calmly, finishing my juice. Are you jealous or something? Now they were laughing at Val. Jealous of a woman? You can't think of a greater shame for a troll. Shut up, he barked, standing up and looking around the tavern with an angry look. Otherwise... The talking instantly died down. A fly buzzing around the lamp attracted everyone's attention. The owner crouched down behind the counter just in case. But either the witch had a beneficial effect on the troll's character, or he got up on the wrong foot. In any case, Val returned to the interrupted conversation. Greases your Geva, he announced with conviction, ordering a glass of beer with a click. The boredom there is mortal. There is even no one to punch in the face. Have you tried hitting their head on the fountain? I asked insinuatingly. Oh, I heard you tried it. The troll grinned knowingly. You gave the ghouls a flood in the middle of summer. The meeting house sank. Half the square was washed away. They had to repave it. Your order, Madam Sorceress? One could guess from the innkeeper's uncontrollably spreading lips that the newly filled bottle contained the most base liquid. Without humiliating myself to check, I casually stuffed the bottle into my bag. The grin grew to his ears and began to spread in breath. Well, not like I care. Not mine, don't mind. Main thing is the gate. Lecture 4. Can you please stop? Thanks. Lecture 4, Clairvoyance. The gate did not creak. Before going to meet Timar, I cast 2 spells on a bottle. The first gave the contents the taste and smell of wine. I really hoped that it would last at least until the third sip. Illusions have always been my weak point. It was paired with masking charms designed to hide the witchcraft performed on the bottle from not too meticulous magicians. I was deservedly proud of the charm, having independently dug up and deciphered the formula in one of the old library tomes. Of course, as soon as the first spell cracks, the enchantment will also break, but that won't matter. And if Almid fails to distinguish the tincture from the enchanted juice offhand, I have honestly earned those 5 gold. Uh, don't forget about the professional risk. Identifying an adept by the style of magic is as easy as shell and pears, and I'm unlikely to get away with such a blatant deception. Fortunately, I've already passed intelligent races, so in the worst case scenario, I'll apologize and honestly promise not to prank the teachers anymore. A cold afternoon silence reigned at the school. The lectures had already ended, the exams had not yet begun. My steps echoed down the corridor. The meeting place, as befits the conspirators, was appointed on neutral territory, the third floor area between the men's and women's wings. Timar was not yet visible. I sat down on the white windowsill, tiredly leaned the back of my head against the mosaic window, and very soon began to nod off, tired of the night vigil in the family crypt of the merchant Ryukhovich, who suspected that his late brother was a ghoul. I didn't find the ghoul, but somewhere nearby it did exist, as eloquently evidenced by the corpse of the merchant Ryukhovich discovered at the well, to the inconsolable joy of the widow, a young, quite arrogant woman. Naturally, I was not able to demand a single copper from her. Meanwhile, at the far end of the corridor, in the woman's half, a dim glow spread, and Riona appeared in it like a ghost. A young Pythia graduate student floated slowly and silently along the corridor, one elbow off the floor, bare-haired, barefoot, in a long nightgown, with a twisted burning candle in her right hand and the volume of scientific aspects of self-hypnosis in her left. The Pythia faculty was notorious, since the most significant, impressive, and inevitable event in a person's life was death. It was this that the Pythian adepts got into the habit of predicting. And it would be good if they guessed, but the anticipation of death made life unbearable. As soon as one of the Pythia appeared in the corridor, it became empty. The indignation of Pythians knew no bounds. "How so?" they cried. "We taste your decoctions, we turn into who knows what. We are afraid to sleep because of your ghouls, and you, who should we practice on?" "On the dead, that's at least for sure," we answered in unison, shamefully deserting. Unfortunately, that was not always possible. Timar tearfully begged me not to leave the appointed place, because he would run through it only once on the way to the exam. I really didn't like Riona's glassy eyes. Judging by them, the Pythia was in a trance, and this threatened to be an accurate prophecy. On the other hand, there was still hope that the possessed woman would not notice me. She didn't. She floated past, wafting with the incense of peach water. I took a breath and gratefully raised my eyes to the ceiling, but the Pythia would not be a Pythia without predicting some nasty thing in the end. Almost disappearing into the darkness of the corridor, she hovered over the ficus tree, half turning towards me. "He seeks power over death," Riona whispered, with a pitiful twist of her lips. "But death is already on his heels. Close the circle, girl." "You talking to me? Riona, wait!" I would like to catch up with her and ask her in more detail before the connection with the other world is interrupted, But Timur appeared at the other end of the corridor, puffing under the weight of a huge vase of flowers. "Did you bring it?" he said as he walked, pulling me along with him with a nod. I caught up with the adept and we trotted neck to neck. "Certainly." "Great, stuff it in my pocket." I shoved it, although it wasn't so easy to do while running. "In the other, your feet." I ran around Timur and the gold coins migrated into my palm. The adept stopped sharply in front of one of the doors on the left side of the corridor, exhaled noisily, and, taking the vase more comfortably, announced with the desperate determination of a suicide, "Well, I'm going." "Break a leg," I wished as usual, opening the door in front of him. "To the Leshy," the adept echoed, darting into the audience. I closed the door, automatically glanced at it, and realized that my days were numbered. On the door was written, "Quiet, the exam is underway," and a little lower on the official letterhead, "Exorcisms, Xan Perlov." I groaned muffledly and, leaning my back against the door, slowly slid down into the floor. Exorcisms! The teacher. As always, I failed to cowardly die on the spot from a broken heart, and fear was replaced by ravenous hunger. The teacher won't kill me, really, but he can put me in the punishment cell for a couple of days on bread and water and for some educational work. The potatoes I built over the years of study would be enough to build a second school. So, the wisest thing to do is to eat for the future and quickly. Returning to my room, the first thing I did was reach into the refrigerator. A wooden box about a yard high, lined with tin on the inside. On the lower and upper shelves, in low trays, lay magical ice. It didn't melt even on a summer afternoon, maintaining a low temperature in the chamber. Every evening it had to be restored. We periodically forgot to do this, and by the morning the box would flood. The refrigerator cabinet was intended for elixirs and decoctions, but my roommate and I used it according to the principle: a small infection will not stick to a larger infection, and at the same time stored perishable provisions in the cabinet. Having pushed aside a bunch of red tails, a bottle with fingernails of drowned men, rotting deal, and a jar with promising inscription "Poison," I discovered a plate with a cold chicken leg and a ripe tomato. I cast a very glance at my friend, who was tidying up the room, and supplemented the meager meal with a piece of black bread with butter and a glass of apple compote. Velka let out a long, trembling, reproachful sigh. Only a suicide could afford himself terribly calorie bread and nightmarish cholesterol butter, washed down with sweet compote. Velka was obsessed with diets. Her discussions about food gave me stomach cramps. She did not eat bread, lard, butter, nuts, sweets, or cakes, in short, nothing tasty or nutritious. She knew how many calories were in a pound of bread and how long it would take to burn them while lying, sitting, standing, or doing heavy physical labor. The richer the product was, the more disgusting it seemed to my friend. Vegetables did not please her either. She shied away from beans, potatoes, and peas like a ghoul from a cross. The only product that Velka did not worry about were apples. She devoured them in any quantity at any time of the day, and the juicy crunch often woke me up in the middle of the night. I didn't think Velka was that fat at all. On the contrary, she seemed very nice, but my friend refused to be convinced. "Well, it is easy for you to say you don't have problems with being overweight," she said sadly, measuring her waist every night with a piece of old band. She considered everything minus the skeleton to be overweight. I didn't understand how anyone could be jealous of a visual aid to anatomy. Eagerly licking the plate after 2 servings of fried potatoes with lard, I tried not to look at the boiled carrots the basis of Belka's diet. The diet of 3 carrots for lunch, 2 for dinner, 1 for breakfast did not justify itself, except for the rush on my friend's face, which she took as a good sign. They say that toxins are beginning to be eliminated from the body. Then came the coleslaw diet. It was followed by a raw food diet and separate meals, separate in the literal sense of the word because I cooked for myself separately and Velka drank sour milk and read me figure-saving sermons. The worst was yet to come. Some scoundrel told my friend about a diet of boiled river fish, after which Velka locked herself in the toilet for 3 hours and came out considerably thinner, pale, and with black circles under her eyes. She was delighted but did not dare to repeat the experiment. A plain tribute to the chicken leg, I distantly watched as Velka sorted the papers piled in a disorderly mound on her bed. The session swept over our heads like a hurricane over a young forest. Someone broke down and was expelled, someone bent over for a retake, but the majority survived and enjoyed a short respite, throwing their old notes out of sight. Velka incinerated some of the papers on the spot, put some on the table, and put some aside to review at her leisure. When a strangled wheeze caught my attention, it was too late. Velka managed to get acquainted with my latest masterpiece. Let me make a reservation right away. I have never suffered from an overabundance of visual abilities, and this canvas was a clear confirmation of this. From the very beginning it was clear that such a large-scale work was beyond my strength, but the inspiration that visited me persistently demanded a way out, wanting to immortalize in coal my mortal battle with the Gava's monster. Of the entire area, the only thing that was undeniably successful for me was the fountain, a shapeless heap in the background. The trees and bushes did not resembled a hollowed-out carrot ridge, and the cobblestone pavement turned into a chaotic scattering of boulders, along which the main characters galloped briskly like mountain goats. My opponent looked like a poorly worn blot, pierced by a hairpin with teeth and making a depressing impression. After tormenting myself for an hour over the self-portrait, I gave up, deciding that changing the character would benefit the picture, and replaced the creepy, rumpled woman with something designed to depict Leon. I don't know how I managed it, but the vampire and the werewolf looked the same. The faces of the characters were my weak point, and trying to achieve maximum resemblance to the originals, I rubbed the canvas to the point of making holes. Volga, you promised not to draw anymore, Velka said reproachfully, unable to take her eyes off the masterpiece. Oh. The ball newspaper that the task of creating which I was assigned the year before aroused extraordinary interest among the general public. The news of the latest issue of the Bulletin of Arcane Sciences, before collecting dust at the doors of the teacher's room in splendid isolation, instantly spread around the school. The issue was dedicated to the International Festival of Sorcerers and dedicated to the mentors, the founders of the school. For once, BAS was a huge success. Each adept considered it his duty to familiarize himself with short biographies, and even more so, half-body images of venerable wizards. The mentors who were not among them sighed with relief, allowing themselves short, uncontrollable laughs that turned into thunderous laughter. The first lesson was disrupted. The enthusiastic spectators did not leave, and the crowd kept growing. Even the teacher came running, but for some reason he didn't like his own portrait posted on the front page. Having torn the work of 2 sleepless nights from the wall, he tore it into small shreds, and, not listening to friendly cries in defense of the talented abstract artist, slapped me with a D for my behavior. Well, yeah, I promised, but you cannot order a muse. I took the historical painting from Velka, rolled it up, and hid it under the bed. This nightmare doesn't even smell like a muse. I think you shouldn't eat so much at night, my friend grumbled. I was saved from a lecture on food hygiene by Vajek, who materialized in the middle of the room hugging a huge blue-black turkey. The bird's head hung limply on its thin, bare neck. Here, I got a stack, the guy said proudly. Where did you steal it? Velka asked sternly. Vajek started speaking some nonsense. His story was steaming with dragons and ghouls, old werewolves, a cemetery, the living and the not-so-dead, a battle to the death, skillfully reproduced whizzing, the exciting pursuit of Vajek by demons and demons. Exciting pursuit of Vajek by demons and demons by Vajek, kings and knights into which he was supposedly knighted, and they gave him a dead turkey in addition. In the middle of the horrible story, Yenka, a tall, bony guy, came into the room, listened for a while, chuckled, and lounged imposingly in a rocking chair. The black cat Barsik, the school mascot, stealthily slipped through the ajar door and jumped onto Yenka's lap. In any case, the bird cannot be resurrected, Vajek concluded philosophically. Who is in favor of returning it to its rightful owner? Who abstained? Same thing. Here, pluck. Velka and I lashed onto the turkey like two moths. Feathers swirled in the air. The black cat, turning over on its back, excitedly kicked them with its clawed paws. It needs to be scalded, Vajek advised, hovering around us but not taking any active part. Boil water and pour over. You better close the door. I will enchant it. No, in no case. This may attract the unhealthy attention of one of the masters. Use a mop to prop it up. The black turkey shrunk by half and turned out to be an unhealthy bluish color. I had a terrible suspicion that some compassionate granny allowed the bird to die a natural death and then threw it into the nettles, and Vajek picked it up. It's okay. We will cover it with clay and put it in the fire. Maybe it will be fine. Velka encouraged us, not too confidently. And then she added thoughtfully, especially since I'm still on a diet. The nearest forest had long been chosen by us for Sabbaths, to the great displeasure of the inhabitants of the neighboring village. A couple of times they had already tried to join our warm company, with torches, bundles of firewood, and a shaggy priest nasally announcing to the congregation the opening of the witch hunting season. There was a delicate knock on the door. Before we had time to get there, there was a whiff of burning, and Timar seeped through the boards and mob. He looked radiant. First session without a single retake, the adept joyfully announced, not paying attention to my frowning eyebrows. Oh, and we're celebrating. Yeah, can imagine, Vilka sighed nullingly. I remember after celebrating the not-so-successful last session, the school was filled with some imps jumping along the walls, materialized by you under the influence of 10 jugs of elven beer. How did you even manage to drink so much? Nah, nonsense. At midnight there's general magical gathering on the on the field before tomorrow's harvest festival. All the mentors will go there, and the teacher and the watchman, who will be replaced by one of our guys, and the rest will one of our khirs, and the rest will have no time for obscurantists. Out of excess feelings, we all often used troll curses, without translation, of course. There was another knock on the door, but no one entered. Volkaredne, to the headmaster, immediately, the voice of the floor duty officer announced loudly. I hastily stuffed the rest of the tomato into my mouth, somehow cleaned the feathers off my trousers, and went to the slaughter. My friends saw me off with sympathetic glances. The door to the teacher's room was ajar, and I heard the teacher's rattling voice at the beginning of the corridor. I'll admit that this is a complete disgrace. Listen, disgrace. The school has never seen such chaos before. How can I call the adepts to order if mentors like you hourly set such an example for them, and if this is not a school of magicians, but as if this is not a school of magicians, but a camp of trolls. Just now, walking along the second floor, I heard dirty swearing from the women's restroom. No, I'm not going to quote, even though I really want to. Moreover, the school's reputation does not have time to recover from one emergency before another breaks out. Just last week, a seventh-year Pythia predicted an earthquake in the northern provinces and rang about it throughout the city. The girl made a mistake, and I had to urgently contact the northern magicians, almost on my knees begging them to arrange a small demonstration earthquake to maintain the authority of the school. I have problems of national importance here, and you are meddling with your cabbage. Do you want me to harvest it myself? Yeah, come on, even if it was selective like 3 times. It's enough that I planted it in the spring. Take a dozen seniors, a basket, and put it in the pantry. The teacher's angry monologue never turned into dialogue. Almit smiled guiltily into his red beard, lowering his cunning eyes. In early spring, the director issued an order to supply the adepts of the school with food through subsistence farming on wastelands. None of the mentors and adepts showed the necessary enthusiasms. The tomatoes didn't sprout, the potatoes froze, the cucumbers specked out by jackdaws, but the cabbage took root and became our headache. We had high hopes for caterpillars and aphids, but the selective cabbage turned out to be too tough for them too. The rains didn't wash it, the sun didn't dry it, and the frost didn't kill it. It grew up big, very big, like in the fairy tale about the turnip. Now it had to be harvested, but how? They didn't take us out of lessons for its sake, and after lessons we had no time for cabbage. Ah, here she is. The teacher pointed a long, bony finger in my direction. Magister, leave us, and so that I never hear from you about any cabbage again. Almit shrugged and disappeared. The door behind me slammed shut on its own, and the lock fell onto the hooks with a crash. I flinched in surprise. A mouse that had fallen into a mousetrap probably feels the same way. The teacher was in no hurry to deal with it. Snorting indignantly, he put the scrolls randomly scattered on the table into a tube. Have a seat, the teacher said briefly, carefully adjusting the lid on the tube. Thank you, I'll stand. I said, sit down. The teacher barked, throwing the tube into the desk drawer with a crash. The tube was a yard long and as thick as my thigh, and even a horrible history textbook would not have fit in the drawer, but the tube disappeared with a slight rustle. So, the archmage began ominously, leaning with both hands on the table. A long grey beard like a fluffy cat's tail curled into a ring on the tabletop. Can you guess why you are here? Well, I said it in a significant nasal voice. Do you think this is funny? The teacher asked in the tone of a judicial prosecutor. Oh, I said repentantly. Do you even understand what you've done? No, I said just in case, so that God forbid I would not admit to something that had not yet surfaced. After the exam, we all drank a few sips, the teacher said in an icy tone. Before, Volker, this is slow and unworthy of a magician. Yes, I appreciate your ingenuity, but couldn't you have found a more decent liquid? Oh, I sobbed. Eee, the teacher mimicked me. Well, what should I do with you? Deduct? Volka, expel you? Volka, you're a smart girl. You have such outstanding abilities. Aren't you? I took a furtive breath. Well, thank the gods. It blew by. The teacher switched to informal you, which means the punishment cell is cancelled. Suspicious, but nice. I would hate to miss the overnight bluebird roast. But lengthy moralizing could not be avoided. The teacher paced the room like a prisoner in a stone sack, quoted Rowan the Crowned and the Prophet of Suk, pointed to portraits of the magicians, the founders of this school, persuaded, convinced, reprimanded, hoping to awaken in my soul everything good, pure, and bright that had never been there at all. I nodded absent-mindedly, wondering if 5 gold would be enough for a new fur coat. The old one was completely shabby and winter was just round the corner. The blood pulsed in my temples. The old magician was trying to telepathically find out the degree of my repentance. I willingly played along with him, thinking about my bad behavior. And then the teacher stopped, shuttling around the room, turned on his heels, and stared at me with such a confused expression on his face, as if he saw a horde of green imps jumping over my head with joyful screams. What does roofing iron have to do with it? He asked again in fear. What? I was dumbfounded. What kind of iron? Why did you need a pound of roofing iron? It's nothing like that, I said offended. I am full of shame and remorse, and I regret my ruined life and want to improve. Take it off immediately, the teacher menacingly demanded. Take what? I looked over my shoulder, trying to figure out if there was something pinned to my back. You have some kind of amulet that distorts thoughts. Give it to me this very second, otherwise it will get worse. I never wore jewelry, be it rings, bracelets, or chains. Not because I didn't love them, I just didn't have them, just as I didn't have a person who could give them to me. But there was a vampire. I incredulously felt a simple leather cord under my shirt, and after hesitating, took off the talisman and laid it in the open hand of the teacher. I was afraid that the magician would put the talisman in one of his countless boxes and send me away with the words, "You will take it after finishing the school." But nothing of the kind happened. The teacher thoughtfully examined the stone in the light, weighed it in his palm, and returned it to me. Araktur's gift? Who? Ah, Leon. Yes, his. Does the stone really have magical properties? Not only. The teacher's anger disappeared as if by hand. Turning to the window, the old magician thoughtfully studied the wasteland, overgrown with lupins. In any case, I will ask you not to wear it when I call you. I promise, teacher. Can I go? Yes. No. Something else. You have the opportunity to atone for your behavior. I appoint you as the guardian of the gate on the eve of the harvest festival. May the gods have mercy on me. Returning to the room, I continued to absent-mindedly toss the talisman in my palm, and Velka immediately noticed it. What is this? Show me, don't be greedy. Did the boyfriend give it to you? I shrugged vaguely, but handed over the stone. Aventurine. Cheap, Timar remarked contemptuously, snatching a cord with a stone and, after short inspection, throwing it to Yenka. You yourself is cheap, Velka was indignant, slapping him on the wrist. You, like you understand a lot. This is a gift, A gift from an admirer. This is no price for it at all. Oh wow, there is something written here. Thrifty Yenka pulled the magnifying glass out of his pocket and they collided with our foreheads of the talisman. The pebble pendant was sharpened in the shape of a wolf's fang, covered at the base with a silver cap which gave it some resemblance to a pointed acorn. The tail was replaced by a small ring through which a cord was threaded. It was the cap that attracted Yena's attention. The finest engraven cord along the silver rim, a series of incomprehensible runes, at the same time similar to elven and dwarven ones. It seemed to me that I had already seen some of them in the Gava's cave, one at the entrance and a couple more in the hexagram of the witch's circle. Still, we found one familiar rune, death. Oh wow, what a gift, Timar laughed. It's quite life affirming. Maybe they meant love to death? Belka suggested dreamily, turning her eyes to the ceiling. It's also a good thing, the adept agreed. The ancient had such a custom to bury a living wife along with her deceased husband. And the wife didn't object? Well, she objected, but not for long, Timar muttered ominously. Now, Volha, you must pray for him, God forbid. Timar, do you believe in prophecies? I asked, hanging the amulet round my neck. Depends on whose. Well, let's say Riona's. Huh, Timar whistled. In her 5th year, she predicted the end of the world, which did not happen for technical reasons. Well, you don't say, Vajik objected. Riona is a capable girl. Master Brooks praised her very much. Oh, by the way, Yenka remembered, what did the teacher want from you? I felt an urgent need to sit down. Congratulate me, guys. I am the Khir who will guard the school gate on the eve of the harvest moon. Oh no, the adepts groaned in unison. We will take a short break here, couple minutes, and I'll be back. Okay, we are back. I did not forget to change the screen this time. I hope I will not lose my voice because I have D&D session after this. We are back, and this is. Wait a moment. Yeah. Lecture 5, Window. With the same success, the teacher could have asked the cat to guard the kennel gate. As soon as the mentors left, leaving me with all the keys, a journal of comments, and a crystal sensor from the fence, the Harvest Festival began long before its official announcement. Girlfriends of adepts and boyfriends of girlfriends and boyfriends of adepts, booze and intoxicating smoke flowed through the gate like a deep river. Nobody took my timid objection seriously. The little ones didn't listen. My peers offered to have a drink with them at the uh, offered to have a drink with them, and I myself was afraid of the older students. As a result, I could only helplessly watch the chaos that had engulfed the school and live through a low-quality fair book about a serial maniac found in the master watchman's drawer. Blood was literally gushing from the pages, and I already had enough screams in abundance. The school was shaking, plaster was falling from the ceiling and returning to its place again. Beams of lightning flew out of the windows, bats were circling under the ceiling, and impotent imps had to be driven away with a broom. The school ghost, unable to bear it, came down from the attic, chatted with me for a few minutes, complaining about the decline in morals among modern youth, after which he put on his cloak and went out into the street to scare passers-by. By 2 o'clock in the morning, the flow through the gate had dried up for the simple reason that everything that could be brought in and taken out was brought in and taken out before 2. I felt uncomfortable in the empty, echoing hall, and I went on the round prescribed by the teacher, trying not to catch the eye of the troublemakers. Our room was locked, and there was a "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door. I belatedly remembered that Velka, having secured my consent, rented out the room to one of her friends for a reasonable fee. Judging by the sounds, the friend was not having fun alone. I returned to the counter and, with disgust, picked up the book, opened, and turned upside down. What a dreary night! I can neither go to sleep, the room is occupied, and the magisters can arrive at any moment, nor do anything worthwhile. The library is locked, repeating lessons is too lazy. The friends went into the forest and will not return soon. Judging by the turkey, it's good if they come back at all. To top it all off, a thunderstorm broke out. The rain pattered on the roof like dried peas, and I was just about to go chat with the dragon. But for this, it was necessary to go around the school, and the water was already bubbling under the second step of the porch. A lightning was furiously charging the crystal ball on the spire of the alchemical building. Autumn and even winter thunderstorms were not uncommon in Starman. Stubborn nature did not want to put up with magic periodically breaking out of its control. I was not mistaken in considering the thunderstorm a side effect of the magic performed on the Trinity lists by a group of magisters led by teacher. I knew roughly what they were doing there. First, the area will be protected from rain, snow, and other precipitation, including fog. Then they will install protection from amulets. People are people, the temptation to use magical support is great. And finally, they will create a magical vacuum within the lists. Complete protection from any and all spells, including their own. The magicians will spend the rest of the night in the warehouse, checking that the bows, arrows, and targets themselves are not enchanted. There was a knock on the door. They knocked so mysteriously and soulfully. Wow. Was there really at least one conscientious adept in the school? Snorting in annoyance, I put the book aside and walked to the door. It opened with a quiet creak, letting rain and wind into the warm, cozy hall. A vampire stood on the threshold. Water flowed in streams over his wide black cloak. From under the hood his eyes flashed predatorily, and the vampire slowly raised his head. The hood fell behind his back. Lightning flashed, outlining an ominous silhouette with a white flame, silvering the hair pressed by the hoop and reflecting on the long, sharp fangs. "Well, hello," said the vampire and extended his cold wet hands to me. "Leon!" I hung on the vampire's neck with an enthusiastic squeal. He cleared his throat and delicately put his arm around my waist. The Lord of the Game has not changed at all. All the same grey, mocking and wise eyes, shoulder-length blonde hair, slightly bitter and contemptuous smile on his thin lips, a shabby leather jacket, and a gold hoop with an emerald. But to see him in the hall of the school in the capital of Beloria, one might say the heart of human civilization, where, if they believe in vampires, they really don't like them, it was so wild and unusual that I even pinched myself on the leg to exclude a nightmare. "Don't hope I won't evaporate," Leon smiled. "Can I take off my cloak?" It got soaked through despite the guarantee from a reputable dwarven company. Yeah, he hasn't changed a bit. Cynic, mocker, and telepath. "You will laugh," Leon continued, shaking his cloak and showering me with small splashes. "But I was wrong. I am the one who got soaked through, and the cloak, oddly enough, is dry both inside and out. Oh, no, no spells. I know you. I'll dry myself." "Leon, I missed you so much." I threw a scarlet spark into the fireplace, igniting a pile of birch firewood. Leon pulled a massive chair up to the fireplace grate and straddled it backwards, looking at me over the high back. How did I get out of the habit of this strange, all-penetrating gaze, subtly, with a subtle thread connected souls? How long has it been since I looked into those eyes, dissolving in them without a trace, belonging to them, commanding them? I shook my head. Leon cannot be changed. "Aren't you ashamed to use vampire spells on your friends? Immediately, right now, this very second, stop reading my mind." "Huh, even the amulet is not a hindrance to you." "That's a shame," Leon really readily agreed. "But I'd like to quickly find out how you're doing. And don't forget, this is my amulet." The vampire stretched out like a cat, basking in the flow of heat from the fireplace. "Yes, before I forget, Kella says hello to you. She wanted to give me some kind of medicinal herb, but I didn't take it. It looked too much like quinoa, you can't crush it, but it won't fit in a bag with roots. I couldn't drive through the city with a planted quinoa at the ready." As always, the very first joke destroyed the wall of alienation that grew even between the closest friends during separation. We plunged into shared memories with delight. According to Leon, little has changed in the Geva over the past 4 months. The potatoes turned out great. There has been a new addition to the herd of unicorns, 2 charming twin fillies and a snow-white stallion. At the border, not a day goes by without some oddities. Yet another vampire hunter ran into a sleeping bear, and the bear, irritated by the thick garlic spirit emanating from the clods, chased him through forest for 2 hours and harassed him to such an extent that the hunter rushed off with tears of joy towards the border guard, who scared away the bear with a loud knock of his sword on the scabbard. But soon I came to my senses. Leon, did something happen? Nothing, the vampire shrugged carelessly. Why do you ask? You came all this way just to try out a new cloak? No, I came for the harvest festival, the vampire answered calmly. I received an invitation to the shooting range and decided to accept it. After all, even the Lord of the Gala sometimes needs to take a break from government affairs and see the world. Won't that bother anyone else? I asked suspiciously. Volha, what's wrong with you? Leon's eyes were impeccably honest, and a slight insult in his voice could color the ears of the most suspicious interlocutor with a crimson shame. Are you not happy to see me? Show me the invitation, I demanded. The vampire shrugged and, unlacing his bag, handed me a sheet of stamped paper with 2 gold imprints. The invitation was most genuine. It was signed by the teacher and the king. The school seal could not be forged by the most skilled magician. The royal seal also looked extremely natural. In short, something was fishy here. I looked at Leon. He looked at me. I realized that I wouldn't get anything from him until I had solid evidence. He guessed that I didn't believe him, but I couldn't say anything definite. So, complete mutual understanding arose between us, and we both felt a surge of excitement in anticipation of the familiar and beloved game. Go figure him out, go trick her. Okay, I said. We'll see, he echoed. A wild howl came from above. Something thundered and thumped so loudly that the building shook. Almost immediately there was a chilling laugh, followed by the deafening rattle of a chandelier that fell at our feet. Then there was silence. We froze, waiting. From the hole in the ceiling left by the chandelier, crumbs of cement fell with a rustle. Oh, you're so naughty, a gentle girlish voice purred clearly, after which the intact and undamaged chandelier soared to the ceiling and fell into place, leaving dark scratches on the marble floor. Leon listened, looking at the ceiling. When one kind lady explained the way to the school to me, she put it something like this. You will reach the creamery and see 2 divergent roads. At the end of the left is the school, at the end of the right is the tavern. It seems I took a wrong turn. No matter where you turn, the result is the same. Half of the adepts are having fun at the zealous ball. The school has turned into a branch of this worthy institution, and I act as an elderly mother who is no longer good for anything. But Leon, what else can I do? I complained. I have to keep order, and I can't. They don't listen to me. And I completely understand them, but in 3 hours, the mentors will return. They will kill me. Don't do anything. The teacher knows what's going on here, and if he really wanted to maintain order, he would have left someone more authoritative. Don't worry. This is a favorite technique of managers. If something can harm their reputation, they shift the responsibility to someone whose reputation it cannot harm. Both adepts will have fun, and the headmaster of the school seems to have nothing to do with it. Is it true? Trust me, I am an experienced lord. You also resort to dirty tricks like this? Well, how can I play different with you? Leon winked. I jokingly nudged him with my elbow. And what do you advise me? You know what? Go to bed, Leon said seriously, getting up from his chair. But I'm the guardian of the gate. Why guard the gates of the city whose walls have fallen? The vampire shrugged, throwing on his cloak. Yeah, the walls have fallen and the hordes of barbarians are rampaging through the ruins. I agreed, yawning deeply. Yeah, spit on it. By morning, everything will be quiet. But what about you? I realized. I'll spend the night at the inn. I have already made an agreement with the owner. Why didn't you wait out the rain there? Well, maybe I couldn't wait to see you. Leon winked and closed the door behind him before I had time to come up with a sarcastic answer. Lecture 6. Diplomacy. Great job, Volha! The watchman greeted me, looking up from his book for a minute. That's what I didn't expect from you. He's kidding me, I thought, sadly, climbing to the second floor on foot. Around 3 in the morning, the rain subsided, and I, taking a blanket and pillow, made a luxurious bed in the bend of the warm dragon's tail. Waking up with the first rays of the sun, I returned to my post, full of the darkest forebodings. Oddly enough, the school did not fall to the ground or even sag. Master Watchman, a dear old man, leisurely lived through the adventures of the irrepressible maniac. Apparently, he had just arrived and considered my absence to be short-lived. The floor attendant watered the flowers and pulled back the curtains on the wide windows. Two diligent part-time housekeepers were scrubbing the floor with long mops. Volka! Velka rolled towards me, jumping over 2 steps. She picked up such speed that was almost carried past. Grabbing the railing, my friend managed to slow down, turn around, and catch up with me at the end of the flight. Who is that handsome guy? What handsome guy? The blondie, sweetie. Our girls are quickly sprucing up their beauty, and the entire hallway stinks of glamour. I gasped. It completely slipped my mind. So, I didn't dream about Leon? Where is he? In the teacher's office. Where did you meet him? Do you really care? Well, we're friends. I will not tell anyone. Is he your lover? God forbid, I snapped not too calmly. This is my friend. Old friend. Come on, he's too young for an old friend. What is his name? Araktur, I muttered, quickening my pace. Oh, how lovely. Velka could barely keep up with me, stumbling on the steps, but she didn't give up. He's a magician, right? So strong, brave, decisive, a real man. And when did you manage to find out? What? Just before dawn, he swept through the school like a hurricane, throwing guests almost out of the windows. Rena's boyfriend tried to pretend to be an adept, but he just laughed and said, yeah, of course I believe you. After which he threw out both the friend and the boards hanging on the chair with equal ease. The guest girls tried to cause a scandal, the adepts intervened, but the magic did not take him, and he dealt with the guys with like left hand alone. He forced them to collect and hide the bottles, dipped the drunks into a fire barrel, so that by the time the teacher returned, everyone was sober at the glass, and an unnatural odor reigned in the school. Nobody asked about me. No, as soon as the teacher saw the blonde, he began to shake, dragged him into his office, and ordered to not let anyone in. They're still there. Well, so far it seems quiet. No, he's just a sweetheart, cutie. I fell in love, the ideal man. Listen, does he have at least one flaw, even tiny? Otherwise, I'll go crazy now, by gods. It's not worth it. There are no ideal men. Leon does not have many flaws, the main ones being fangs and wings. Of course, I kept silent about them, which further fueled Vega's curiosity. Is he not local? Where did he come from? He's from noble family, right? Well, in his state, only the gods are more noble, I sighed. You wouldn't wish such a corrosive friend on your enemy. So he's a king? Belka came into puppy delight. Real? What is he doing here? He's looking for a bride. I lied without blinking an eye. Would you like me to recommend you? Velka snorted skeptically. You lied all the time. He's no king, and he's not looking for a bride. He probably came to the festival to take part in the shooting ranges. I didn't tell you anything. You guessed it yourself, I warned. A senior student I knew with a black eye was sweeping the carpet on the second floor. If only I could catch your friend, he muttered, gloomily kicking up clouds of dust. Well, here he comes, I lied, peering into the dark corner of the corridor. The adept began hastily sweeping in the opposite direction. Hey, where are you going? Velka sarcastically shouted after him. I'll take the broom. I'll put the broom in place and come back. With these words, he dived into one of the classrooms and locked himself from the inside. The staff room door swung open just as I was about the teacher's room swung open just as I was about to knock on it. Leon stood on the threshold. I recalled in confusion. The vampire's face was decorated by a fluffy blonde beard that completely hid his fangs. Perhaps it really decorated him, but I, who did not expect excessive vegetation, could not appreciate this innovation. Leon was clearly about to leave, but when he saw us, he gallantly bowed and gave Velka a promising smile. The Lord's smile affected women like the butcher's axe the cattle. Velka's eyes almost popped out of their sockets, a blush flared up on her cheeks, her knees began to tremble, and several incomprehensible sounds came out of her mouth. Ready, I stated with regret. Not stopping there, Leon gallantly kissed Velka's hand without taking his mysterious, searching gaze off the girl's face. Yeah, we already passed that. Velka would never know that in those few seconds Leon methodically and calmly rummaged through her memory, probed her subconscious, and made a certain conclusion for himself. My friend Vilena, I introduced Velka solely for the sake of keeping appearances. And this is my old friend Araktur, Leon interrupted me. Borja, could you come in for a minute? The teacher's official voice came from behind the vampire. But Vilena, escort our guest to the dining room. He is probably hungry from the road. Yes, and give the chief this note. Leon, whose face was not seen by either the teacher or Velka, who was listening to him, thoughtfully ran his gaze along Velka's neck and winked at me. I couldn't help but let out a sobbing laugh. The teacher coughed disapprovingly. Having grown serious, I slipped past Leon like a fish and stood at attention in front of the teacher's desk. The vampire and Velka left, and then the teacher allowed himself a prank worthy of me. He crept up to the door on tiptoes, opened it slightly, and peered through the crack for a long time. I don't understand why I agreed to this. The teacher began closing the door and approaching the table. Oh, I guess Leshy pulled my tongue. Harvest festival, archer competition, fair fight, valuable prize, send out invitation to all races. Look, just look at it. Send. Why what the Leshy brought him here? Well, you invited him, I kindly reminded. Yes, but I didn't think he would come. The teacher seemed to be making excuses for me. The teacher seemed to be making excuses, nervously plucking a goose feather. I expected a polite refusal, as always. Well, you probably painted the price in such a way that he wanted to become his owner. Lord of the Geva? The teacher let out a nervous laugh. My child, Araktur is not an ordinary archer who participates in competitions for the sake of vanity or profit. And the Council of Elders will never be like a fisherman who baits his hook with a golden spoon. It depends on what he wants to catch. That's it. My understanding made the teacher feel even worse. He crumpled the tattered feather and threw it into the waste paper basket. What does he want? Ask him yourself. What do you think I've been doing for the last hour and a half? The magician became angry. This evasive vampire will drive me to my grave. Even worse, he sipped giraffe and starman without any security. Incognito, I clarified. That means we will have to protect him, the teacher developed his thought. You will have to. He doesn't want to hear about anyone else, although God knows I offered him a choice of 3 dozen most experienced magisters. In my opinion, he can take care of himself. Volha, when the head of a state, no matter which one, leaves its borders, responsibility for his well-being automatically falls on the shoulders of the receiving party. In short, if he is killed on our territory, his inconsolable subjects will demand compensation, I realized. Exactly, the teacher exclaimed with genuine despair, pulling out the second feather from the sand. That's why I don't want to have anything to do with Araktur. If he had been a human, the matter would have been limited to a diplomatic embarrassment. For example, when at a banquet in honor of the arrival of the king of Volmania, this very king was poisoned, we got away with the reduction of the import duty. When Venesia's ambassador drowned in the cesspool, we had to sacrifice a pound of gold. And for Prince Ritik, his eldest son even paid us extra, from which we can conclude that there are no irreplaceable people. Araktur is the only telepath, or as they are called, spirit, in all of the Geva. He is revered there as a god. What can compare with the anger of people whose god was taken away? Well, they are not people. So much the worse. Their reaction is generally impossible to predict. The teacher took a deep breath and stood up. So you will immediately begin your duties to protect Araktur terrorists. Here's the money. It should be enough for expenses. Thank God he at least notified me of his visit. A golden mount materialized in the middle of the table. And remember, any desire of Araktur is law. He is our guest and should not need anything. Any? I asked suspiciously. Any, the teacher said. If any difficulties arise, contact me immediately. And leave this familiar tone. He is not your brother, not your colleague or your peer. He is my friend. First of all, he is Lord of the Geva, and you should not jump around him like a puppy who believes that that a human was created for his amusement just because he played with him once. Have you ever noticed how funny such a puppy looks, getting underfoot and barking at passers-by with a broken voice? Oh, gods, Volha, when will the adult woman awaken in you? Does her snoring really bother you that much? I humbly asked, pouring gold into my pocket. The feast was in full swing in the dining room. The teacher's note, addressed to the cook, opened a cornucopia. The table was laden with delicacies. There was red caviar, ham, succulent pig with horseradish cheese, smoked sausages, a bottle of 100-year-old wine, crab salad, and jellied tongue, whole sturgeon, carp with mayonnaise, overseas tangerines, and domestic apples. Lon lazily pinched the sturgeon's flank. My classmates, Bajak, Timar, and Yenka, devoured the food so fast that it made your ears crackle. Even Velka, forgetting about the diet, bravely fought with calories. The cook looked at the guys with obvious disapproval and tried to stop me at the door. It was not enough for impudent adepts to eat up the noble guest. But Lem jumped up warningly and, showering pleasantries, led me to the table. Apparently he was going to sit me on the empty chair next to him, but as soon as he left, Velka quickly moved to this place, and Lem had the tact not to kick her out. I sat down between her and Bajak. My friend had two complementary hobbies: boys and science. Alas, the first ones invariably disappointed her. Velka secretly dreamed of growing an ideal homunculus, beautiful and loving in a test tube. Velka's abilities plunged me into deep, envious despondency. Having excellent command of the technique of making potions, she studied practical magic with some success, which is highly atypical for a herbalist. However, I did not have to fear competition from her. Velka was terribly afraid of the undead and would not have agreed to spend the night in the crypts and conduct explanatory conversations with ghouls for any price. From the sixth year, the general flow of applicants was divided into faculties: herbalists and healers, alchemists, sorcerers and sorcerers and pifias, practical and theoretical magic. But we continued to live in the same room and were bosom friends. For complete happiness, Velka only needed gossip about my personal life because there was none. I successfully fought off the gentleman that Velka suggested in 1 or 2 dates, laughing off my friend's indignant tirades. They say I am waiting for the hatching. I was telling her that I was waiting for the hatching of her ideal homunculus. The obvious resemblance of the vampire to the long-awaited homunculus brought confusion to Velka's honest soul, which did not dare to encroach on her friend's admirer. That did not stop her from looking at Leon the way a hungry cat looks at a jug of sour cream. Leon did not look at her at all. At me too. He discussed with Vajik and Timar the prospects of molecular magic, in particular the transformation of copper into gold. Vajik spoke, Timar opposed, Leon suggested replacing copper with silver, which is more malleable for magic. Having calculated the consumption of energy, materials and time, the interlocutors came to the set conclusion that it was cheaper to pen for gold with a sieve in a swamp. But seriously, who are you anyway? Velka could not stand it, having achieved nothing with leading questions. A vampire, Leon admitted honestly without showing his fangs, however. My back got covered in sweat. The adepts roared with laughter, appreciating the joke. Where are your wings? Under the jacket. Leon sat motionless, with a mysterious half-smile on his fluffy moustache. The others just crawled under the table from laughter. You're evading again, Velka was offended. You don't look a bit like a vampire. Blonde hair, dark skin, black eyebrows, slightly almond-shaped eyes. Do you have any relatives among the elves? No. And who, in this case, are vampires like? Leon narrowed his eyes slightly. Velka didn't even think about it. Pale, red-eyed, and bold. Yep, bold, Timar enthusiastically picked up. Shut up. The hands are thin, twisted, and with claws. Naturally teeth and wings, and saliva drips. Poisonous. Friends could not be blamed for anything. They very accurately described the engraving given in the textbook of intelligent races. And there was no other information about vampires, at least from me. The teacher forbade it. He read the coursework, gave it an A, but didn't return the scroll. Strictly forbade even mentioning the Geva. Like, I went to my cousin's funeral in Komnederzhets. I tried to object, but I was rudely stopped. On the one hand, it is bad when people are afraid of vampires. On the other, if they find out that vampires can't fly, don't bite, killing them is as easy as shelling bears, and the Geva is a huge piece of fertile land rich in minerals, no treaty will keep them from war. The rumors slowly subsided, people calmed down, the greats of this world gave up on vampires, and I was not going to stir up this anthill. And their breath smells like rotten meat, Velka added to the already unattractive image of the bloodsucker. What did you sniff? The vampire asked woundedly. Left to my own devices, I sank deeper and deeper into the abyss of dark thoughts. The conversation with the teacher left an unpleasant taste in my soul. I felt drawn into some nasty story, and as a pawn, which was doubly offensive. Damn teacher, that's for sure. My mood completely deteriorated. The only person with whom I could and would like to discuss the current situation was the vampire, but now I was afraid to even talk to him. Oh yeah, Lord, great, inviolable, yeah, great and inviolable, get him. But the guys had a lot of fun. Someone brought up the topic of shooting ranges, and the conversation turned to the advantages and disadvantages of already known contenders for the Royal Prize. Leon was silent. It was clear from his burning eyes that he not only listens carefully, but also uses telepathy, greedily absorbing information. This disgrace lasted a little over a quarter of an hour, then Don got up from the table, apologized and left, having previously whispered in my ear that he would be waiting at the stables. Almost immediately the cook threw us out of the dining room with courses, believing that he, the cook, his relatives, deserved the remains of the delicacies transferred to Leon much more than adepts. He got the whole pig, but we managed to finish up the sturgeon. Vajek, expelled from the Temple of Gluttony, still did not stop complaining. Why didn't he put the pig in his bosom? We could have had a royal dinner. You should have thrown a carb over his collar. Velka couldn't resist. He only thinks about food. Volka, can you imagine? He alone devoured almost the entire turkey, an insatiable. Well, how did you have fun? I inquired with faint indifference. Well, so. It was good until midnight. We drank, did a little magic, jumped over the fire, and then the clouds rolled in. I had to grab the turkey and run to the tavern to finish frying it. That's where you met Araktur? Yes, I immediately thought what a spectacular man. He and Vajak were talking at the counter, and I looked and fainted. And while I was inventing an excuse to introduce myself, he paid for the beer and left. He was asking for directions to the school, Vaja clarified. Why didn't you tell me right away? I would see him off. Imagine we are returning to the school and he is talking with the teacher in the hall. I was so dumbfounded. And the teacher noticed us, frowned and waved his hand at the stairs, like, come quickly. Vajak also said that he was probably an elven spy. And I will repeat it, Vajak insisted. Did you pay attention? He's sociable but didn't say a word about himself, mostly asking us. He's definitely a spy. You always imagine spies, Timar waved him off. Normal guy, cheerful, came from afar, wants to take part in shooting ranges. So he's interested in what's going on here. A man invited you to join him at the table and you already imagined who gods knows what. Are you going to go to the shooting range? I asked. But the friends, tired of the stormy night, turned their noses altogether. Well, you do as you wish, but I'm going to bed, Vilka stretched. Hello to those shooting ranges. What didn't I see there? We'll come up in the evening, Tamara supported her, when the evening celebrations begin. Okay. We'll meet then. I didn't object. There was an unusual buzz in the stables. The horses, usually sleepy early in the morning, rushed about in the stalls, exploding the straw with their hoofs and excitedly talking between each other with thin neighs. They just bored or something? Well-groomed, lively horses required daily walking, and yesterday the owners hardly paid enough attention to them. I pulled out Camomile's saddle from its hiding place in the straw, the same one from the Gava, made of expensive leather with silver-plated buckles and rivets, made especially for me. Other adepts, forced to use harsh government cheap things, envied me with black envy. Having placed the saddle by the stall door, I was about to throw back the latch when someone gently touched me on the elbow. I turned around and saw the regular groom, a boy of about 18 whose intelligence was not inferior to an outlaw. Uh, are you taking chamomile? He asked stammeringly. Yes, I am. What do you care? Well, I don't, mumbled the kid, fiddling with the hem of his long shirt. I just like to take a look. But you've never seen a horse? I chuckled. Well, I haven't seen one like that. The groom moved closer. But aren't you afraid? Who, horses? Mm-hmm. Are you out of your mind, boy? With these words, I opened the door of Camomile's stall and came face to face with a huge black stallion blending into the twilight of the stable to such an extent that it seemed that its burning eyes and viciously gaping teeth were floating in the air on their own. What is this? I screamed. The stallion rushed from his place and, scattering the stable boy and me in different directions, flew out like an arrow into the open door of the stable. Chamomile, standing in the corner, modestly looked down. You infection! What idiot let him in here? I didn't let him in! By gods, I didn't let him in! The groom babbled, pulling his head into his shoulders. It just climbed. Yeah. Climbed. And where did it leak from? I asked sarcastically. Some guy brought him, like already past midnight. Gave me some money, piece of silver. The groom timidly pressed his hand to his pocket. Well, to me, like, so I feed and clean the horse. What is he like? Well, noble stallion, just evil like a vampire. The man, you idiot. Ah, the stable boy creaked his brains in concentration, accompanying his thought process by scratching the top of his head. Nah, like, okay, man. Like, well groomed and the dress is clean. Shoulder length hair like a woman's. Blonde? What? White hair, I ask. Like summer straw. I don't, I muttered through clenched teeth. And where did you assign him? Nowhere. The boy was dumbfounded. He unharnessed the beast and ran away. Not a man, a horse. Oh, well, I mean, I wanted to clean it, but it didn't give in. It started biting, and I just pushed him. I barely managed to push him into the stall, like that one, left of your filly. And in the morning, I come and the bastard sits next to her, and it's as if that's how it's supposed to be. Mating. I looked through a gap into a closed stall. Everything is orderly, fresh straw, fitted boards, partition of about 7 feet, and the same amount from partition about 4 feet, and the same amount from it to the ceiling. Biting bitch, the groom cursed. I took the stole the basin away this evening. Just grabbed it with his teeth like a dog, ruffled his mane, paddled his hoof. I got scared, jumped out, like I was still gnawing. Was afraid to bite me. This cholera. Cholera confiscated a bowl of bread crust from the stable boy, a generous gift from the school canteen. Ate someone, trampled others into manure. It means that the stable boy was not at the wrong door. Yesterday The horse was acting up on a single pen. Chamomile laid her head on my shoulder and sighed languidly and peacefully. Saddle her, I ordered the boy, patted the horse on the neck, and went in search of a black mischief maker. And he had no intention of running away, fearlessly letting me come within arm's length. The barnyard gate was wide open, but the stallion froze next to it, rooted to the spot, his head bent and his eyes glaring like a stray dog that got cornered. The short-cropped mane bristled like a clothes brush. We looked into each other's eyes. I don't know if I made an impression on the horse, but I definitely didn't like his gloomy look. The stallion's eyes were black, deep-set, phosphorescent green from time to time, and I noted with a shudder that his pupils were narrowed vertically, like a snake's. The horse let out an angry, rumbling snore, more like a muffled growl. The affectionate cooing of "horsey, good horsey" stuck in my throat. It was very difficult to call the black stallion a good horsey, much less a good one. Bad dog suited him much better. The hand in which I was holding the sweet carrot trembled slightly. That was the only thing that saved me. The stallion suddenly lunged forward and clicked its teeth right at my fingers. The carrot didn't even crunch. Having dropped the stop, I jumped away from the horse as if scolded. I imagined four sharp fangs. I saw four sharp fangs amongst two rows of impeccably white teeth. That's what I'm saying, concluded the stable boy, who was watching us from a safe distance thoughtfully. There's the demon himself came to visit his mother. Meanwhile, the stallion spotted the beds with selected cabbage, snorted, stamped his hoof, turned around, and slowly trotted in their direction. Oh, he will destroy them, the stable boy sobbed in fear. But the black horse was not destined to disrupt the campaign to harvest nature's gift. Leon appeared from around the corner of the stable. Hearing the melodic whistle, the horse laid back his ears like a naughty little dog and, running up to his owner, poked his muzzle into his shoulder. Well, don't play around. Leon scratched the stallion behind the ears and carefully pulled the burdock out of his short mane. What, Volt? Are the harmful adepts offending you? Your horse spent the night in my mare's stall. I said, crossing my arms over my chest in anticipation of a serious conversation. Maybe you can explain to me how he got over the partition? Oh, the vampire said thoughtfully. I hope he didn't waste any time. The stallion snorted long into Leon's shoulder. Leon, what's going on? I asked bluntly, making a scary face towards the stable boy. Guy took the hint and repeated. What exactly are you interested in? Everything. Why did you come to Starming? To the shooting range, the vampire repeated calmly. You are lying, defendant. Witnesses claim that previously you treated such amusements with blatant indifference. What made you change your mind? I like the price. Leon looked defiantly into my eyes. Hey, Volga, stop it. We are friends, right? Stop questioning me. In the summer I gave you the gab of a plunder, let me have fun in Starming. Honestly, I did not plan anything illegal. And I don't spy, especially not on elves. Not for elves. All objections instantly flew out of my head. Really? Is it my business? Let him have fun, as all he wants. Maybe something will. Maybe I'll have my part too. We will have some fun, but not now, John confirmed. I need to go somewhere else, visit old friends. Let's meet in an hour in the center of the market square. Will you find it? If, well, if not language, it's telepathy that will bring you to the Yasnivgrad. Leon reminded me of the famous Elven proverb. But the teacher said, I began hesitantly, not knowing how to more tactfully explain to Leon that the roles had changed and he himself became the rotten egg that should be carried around without letting go for a minute. Do you listen to him often? The vampire winked, jumping onto his horse. The black stallion neighed maliciously and disappeared in a cloud of dust. And this will be it for tonight. Thank you very much. It was a little unplanned. See you next time. Bye.